I got something to start. I'm just going to go take a little shot of silver in my
That's
throat,
fine.
maybe
Yeah,
knock
yeah,
something
yeah,
back.
yeah. Take your time.
Okay.
Take your time.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah, I got you. Take your time. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fearless Floyd Show, live edition, part 5, the Darrell Link story, A Farmer's Nightmare. We'll have Darrell on here in a minute. He's taking care of some, but he's already on the line, and we'll have him on here.
Okay, I'm back.
Ah, there he is. Speak of the devil.
Well, you could say maybe speaking of an angel showed up.
Right, yeah. No, I thought about that after I said it. Okay, so we had the show. We tried to do this yesterday and couldn't get it to function correctly. We had technical difficulties, but we have it today. I'm currently in San Antonio at my cousin's house, and I have 3 dogs running around, and I have this adorable little pug who can like fit in one hand, and he's like running around, jumping everywhere. So if things start shaking and get out of control, it's him. I'm blaming it all on him. He's my co-producer today. You my co-producer? Yeah, I know. Doing a good job. Keep up the work. All right. So anyway, we have done parts 1 through 4 with Darrell before. We are going to do 5 and potentially 6 today. We're going to go over some instruments that he has filed. He's going to go through each and every one of them and explain them to you. And then we're going to go through some photos. I don't know if it'll be in this video or the next one, but we have some videos ready too. This guy's going everywhere. You just won't leave me alone, will you? You just won't leave me alone. Sorry about that. So anyway, if you want to reach me, you can reach me at the Fearless Floyd Show at yahoo.com. FearlessFloydShow.com is my website. The Fearless Floyd Show across almost every platform you can think of. I do have some guests coming up next week. I have the runner-up of the 2022 election for the 18th Congressional District in Houston, Texas, against Sheila Jackson Lee, as well as Christine Scott. I communicated with her today. That would be Christine Scott versus Ronald DeSantis et al. Out of California, which is, you can go check the video out, is currently filed as a writ of mandamus via the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals to Justice Clarence Thomas at the Supreme Court. So now all the responsibility and liabilities on Clarence Thomas, whether to rule upon it himself, deny it without written order like they want to do, or pass it on to the full panel of all the justices on the Supreme Court. So look out for those coming next week. In my opinion, forget about the Brunson brothers psyop. Focus on Christine Scott. There's some meat and potatoes on that plate, folks. Go check out the video. All right, Darrell, you ready to dive in?
I'm ready.
Okay, so a lot of people have no clue what the hell we're talking about. They just dove in. This is the first time for their introduction to you. So for those of you who know who Darrell is and know all first four parts of the story, I'm going to allow Darrell to give you a brief synopsis about what's going on so you understand the remainder of the video and you're not left behind. So Darrell, without further ado, I'm going to mute myself and give a brief explanation as best you can without really getting into kind of legal terminology keep it simple for the layman, and explain to them exactly A to, let's say we're at P. So how we got from A to P and how we're going to go to Z.
Yeah, we're going to go to A to H today on this first, on set 5. So my name is Darrell Link, and I grew up on a family farm in southeast South Dakota. And we did milk cows and raised beef cattle and hogs, and and I tried to get myself established, using the banks to access my credit. And I explained a lot of this on parts 1 through 4, and it was called A Farmer's Nightmare, the Darrell Link story. So if you want to go back and catch up on some of that, they're available. I did that with Fearless Floyd. And later on, I started to see things that didn't seem very honest, which I will be sharing in this presentation and the following presentations. And I'm going to be showing the facts, as I'm going to show the documents that I filed in this here battle that I got engaged in, and to show you the proof that I'm not just blowing smoke. So it was only a few years before all this financial issue started for me, when I opened up a line of credit account with Farm Credit Services of the Midlands, also known as Production Credit Association, or PCA Federal Land Bank, in Yankton, South Dakota.
Hang on, Darrell. I want to interrupt you just for 1 second, because there's something that you did as a youth that, for somebody who didn't take advantage of the opportunity, myself, and you did, tell them how you got started with your first head of cattle. Yeah, because that's a remarkable story in and of itself. And for everyone to see, how you pulled yourself up by your own bootstraps and achieved everything you achieved, and then had it all taken away from you, it really shows, the nightmare. Ow. So yeah, please do that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, when I was in a senior in high school, I got in a really bad car accident, and so my dad, paid the hospital bill and that stuff. And well, after I got out of high school, he said, well, you're 18. He said, I'll give you can have all the money that was, saved up, through childhood, from gifts from cousins and whatever else, and I had $650 that was saved up. And he said, well, you can do what you want with it if you want to take it all, but he said, I would recommend that you keep some of it back for a rainy day. And I said, nope, I want to take it all out. I want to just take everything out. And so I took it all out, and I purchased 10 head of Holstein heifer calves. And I raised those 10 head of Holstein calves, and I put them in around the lawn. I put a little electric fence up and, grazed them and got them started that way. And in the first summer, I worked part-time for a neighbor, and, and I put in long hours. I probably put in anywhere from 12 to 18 hours a day. And, at the end of that summer, I, had a little bit saved up. And then the next year, I bought another 25 head of Holstein heifer calves. And so then my dad said if I went to college, I wanted to go into Votech or something to learn some trades. And he said, if I don't stay, and if I would go to college, that he was going to quit farming because he couldn't do it. And so that's kind of where my heart was. So I stuck around and I stayed farming, and I raised these calves up, and 2 years later I start milking. And we milked, first we milked by hand, and then we got buckets to milk with the buckets, and my dad would I would dump it off the buckets, and then he would carry it in and dump it in the tank. And then after the 25 started, and my mother bought 25 too, and then so we fed them up, and then it got to be too much hauling milk, so a neighbor quit milking, and they had a pipeline, so I bought that and stuck the pipeline in. And, milked with that, and because I was into milking, with Farmers Home Administration, I was able to qualify to get a loan. And there was 80 acres of land that was like a half mile away from the farm, and that come up for sale. And so being as I was milking, I qualified for a loan, so I went ahead and I signed a mortgage agreement and purchased that 80 acres. And everything that I grew on there, I took it all off for feed because I needed everything that I could get for feed just to kind of make things work. And I'll get into this story a little bit later, what I found out on the mortgage contract, how it was assigned to the government to have and to owe forever and fee simple. And that's talked about in the first 4 videos also, or the first 4 parts. But I'll get into more of that in detail, and I'll show the documents when we get to that part. But anyway, so, I was banking with the local banks, and then later on, a few years after, I started, this is about in 1990 or 89, I got in with Farm Credit Services of the Midlands, also known as Production Credit Association, PCA, Federal Land Bank. I had a AAA credit rating until I lost a little bit of equity by speculating in the commodities that I talked about in previous videos with Fearless Floyd. This was when the whole world come crashing down around me, and the truth about the corrupt banking system became revealed to me. And that's what a way to learn. I share my story so that others can be aware of the depth of the local corruption and can avoid having to learn the hard way. You'll be able to see how all these different corporate agencies and their agents work together in harmony like a swarm of vultures, trying to get every chunk of flesh possible until it is all divided up amongst all those beneficiaries who are part of the financial control party by using unjust weights and measures, which is fictional unsecured credit used as money, to impose involuntary servitude that Scripture identifies as an abomination unto our Lord and Savior. I try to resolve these financial matters before it escalated, and had met with the PCA agents in a meeting for the purpose of a mediation agreement. I thought we had a resolution by agreeing that I would give PCA half of their claimed obligation in the spring and the balance toward the end of the year. So I started selling grain and other assets in an attempt to satisfy the alleged agreement. I believe they thought I would make the first payment. And a couple weeks later, PCA, or Farm Credit Services of the Midlands, filed a show cause against me, why PCA should not be able to seize all my property. And if you could show Exhibit Mark A, this is a notice to show cause that was originally scheduled for February 25th. And I think the mediation meeting was like the first week in February, if I remember right. But then they rescheduled it for March 21st. There's some things you should know that I found out later about the Farm Credit Services of the Midlands, Federal Land Bank, Production Credit Association. And you'll see, this is by Larry Hosmer, the attorney for the plaintiff in Yankton, South Dakota. It was Hosmer and Kettering was the law firm. And they weren't noted for being very honest and honorable. So you'll see this as it progresses with the facts. But I had certified certificate of facts from Secretary of States in 35 different states that stated that Federal Land Bank or PCA or Production Credit Association of the Midlands Farm Credit Services were not registered as a corporation to do business within those states. Neither were they found in the National Archives or the Legislative Archives. And I presented this at a criminal trial that we'll discuss a little bit later. So on March 21st, 1994, after speaking with several farmers and businessmen who fell into this kind of situation in a state of so-called court, who were all run over and plundered and were left to pick up the pieces and try to survive, I went and filed a Chapter 12 bankruptcy to stay the court action the day of the hearing, since PCA would not even give me a chance to work out the mediation agreement. You'll discover that the courts today are registered with Dun & Bradstreet as a for-profit corporate business, or as for-profit corporate businesses, because they're all that way as far as I'm aware of, operating with an EIN number, which is an employee identification number, in the name of the all capital letter state of. And for my case, it was state of South Dakota. And on the federal side, it was United States of America and United States in all capital letters as corporations. For profit at that. And, you know, not knowing how the court operated, or the bankruptcy court operated, so I retained a bankruptcy attorney who was and knew she was new in the bankruptcy practice, you know, she wasn't with it for very many years, and who helped a couple friends save their farms. I tried to work things out through the bankruptcy court, but PCA was trying to make it impossible for me to have a reasonable bankruptcy plan and schedule of payments. So I was looking for ways to resolve this financial attack. I met a man from Boonville, Indiana, named Joe Holland, a former agent who worked for and with the Security Exchange Commission. Joe started the North American Freedom Council. He told me that if I would sign that bankruptcy plan and schedules, that I would be bound to that contract for the duration of the contract, which is basically 7 years. But if I would get dismissed out of the bankruptcy and do whatever I had to do to get dismissed, then he could help me. First, I needed to discharge the credit obligations with the claimed creditors, PCA, FHA, which was the Farmers Home Administration, who was, you know, kind of always a little more lenient to beginning farmers, and they had programs for beginning farmers. And we'll talk about the kind of mortgage contracts that you have to sign. When you do that, you basically pledge everything. You'll never, ever own anything. So, and also the local commercial state bank of Wagner, South Dakota. So if you want to show Exhibit B, so I tendered the certified money order, number 0137 to Production Credit Association, or PCA, and discharged the obligation. As you'll see on the document, it's payable to PCA on demand, money of account of the United States, as required by law in 31 USC at Section 371, pending determination of the substance of said money, or in UCC 1-201, Section 24, dealing with credit money. And then up there on the left side, it says, pursuant to Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution for the United States of America, it states in pertinent part, quote, no state shall, make anything but gold or silver coin a tender for payment of debts. And then in the middle there, it talks about a warning that this money order is presented pursuant in, it's really small print, for you and corresponding, but anyway, pertaining to lawful money. And if you refuse to accept this money order without proving for the collection and without the ruling from your state attorney general, you may be charged with numerous civil or criminal penalties pertinent to Title 42, 1983, 1985, 1986, Title 18, Sections 241 and 242. And Title 18 is a criminal code, and 241 and 242 is basically operating under color of law, which is not law at all, or operating or conspiring to operate under color of law. And if you want to show B1, Exhibit B1, then I send a letter to my bankruptcy attorney on dated August 3rd, 1994, telling her that PCA has been paid in full. But I should have said that tender for payment was made to discharge the obligation, since there is no lawful money to pay debt. I told her I would like to be dismissed out of bankruptcy and do whatever has to be done to get me dismissed out of bankruptcy. And a lot of this here terminology, you know, we think we pay for stuff, but we can't pay for anything. The only thing we do is discharge or offset or set off. And so as we start learning the terminology in the courts and in this legal system, there's a lot of legalese that is very deceptive. So if you want to show Exhibit B2, on August 15th, a letter to Wayne Williamson, PCA Special Assets Division, was sent to me in response to the certified money order, number 137, stating that the loan was not paid in full.
Let me pull it up. Hang on.
Okay. It was not paid in full, as it was not cash equivalent. I knew that if we could go into the state court to settle this matter, that the court could enter a judgment against me, but there would be no enforcement because of Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 of the Constitution, which states that no state shall make anything but gold or silver coin a tender in payment of debts. I'll read from you a little bit from Article 6 of the Constitution for the United States of America, because
you
that
said
binds the
B2
judges.
or B1? B2?
It was B2.
Okay, here it is. Federal Land Credit Association, Production Credit Association.
Yeah, I'm going to read a little bit from Article 6 of the Constitution for the United States of America. And this is what really talks real strong. It says, all debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. Okay, now all engagements entered into, that's the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and the Northwest Territories, or the Northwest Ordinance. Okay. And that mandates that before anyone can take life, liberty, or property, they must have a trial by jury. Not a jury trial, a trial by jury. That is where the jury determines whether it is a valid or a just law, and they hear all the facts and make their determination based upon the law and the facts. Where in a jury trial, the judge says what's the law, and it'll normally be the statutes, which are corporate statutes that are copyrighted and only apply to the District of Columbia and its territories. And then he gives the jury instructions how to make their decision. And we'll get into all that, what happened to me, where they wouldn't allow me to put in one jury instruction and denied everything. I mean, it's not a court, period. But
let me ask you this. on your money signed by Michael Lewis. Who is Michael Lewis?
On the money order, what?
On Exhibit B, the certified money order.
Yes,
It's signed by Michael Loomis.
correct.
It's signed by Michael Loomis. Who's Mike Loomis?
Well, he is the guy that that was the name that was authorized on the instrument. But
I know that. But who is he?
key,
I mean, what
well, he was
authority
with
does
the
he
North
have to
American.
sign this?
I got this from Joe Holland through the North American Freedom Council, and
Okay.
apparently, they were working. He was working together with them, but it was payable upon determination of the substance of said money by the Attorney General. That's the really key part, because it's just a dead instrument. It's just an obligation.
Right.
Okay, and then clause 2 of Article 6 says the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges of every state shall be bound thereby, and anything in the Constitution or laws of any state in the contrary notwithstanding. And the senators, representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. And so that ties in everybody that is operating in the name of government, because they're all operating under the executive, under this war power structure. And the proof there is on in every courtroom, every school, they fly this here flag with a gold fringe on it, which is basically a military flag. Okay, if you could show Exhibit 3, Exhibit C.
Okay.
This is August 22nd. I responded to Mr. Williamson of PCA with a letter regarding the lack of lawful money to effect a remedy. And I will read that letter regarding these issues, because it was addressed to Wayne Williamson, Production Credit Association of Yankton, South Dakota, regarding lack of lawful money to effect remedy. Dear Mr. Williamson, I am responding to your threatening communications dated August 15th, 1994. You will discover upon careful examination that the certified money order that I sent you is payable in the money of account of the United States upon official determination of the substance of said money. I have requested that you send the instrument to your Attorney General for determination. I wish to advise you that you are helping to defraud this country out of its sovereignty and relegate your children and grandchildren to the status of a servant to the international banking thieves that seek to destroy your freedom. The United States of America has been raped and plundered by those who knowingly circulate the valueless instruments of debt/credit that comes from the Federal Reserve Bank. It is a violation of the law for any bank to loan credit. If you proceed against me in this matter, you will be subjecting yourself in your own person to criminal charges pursuant to Title 42, 28, and 18 of the U.S. Code and or a non-judicial commercial lien. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 of the Constitution for the United States of America is a direct restraint on the state. No state court has access to lawful money with which to effect a remedy. In other words, if you win a dollar judgment in state court, it will be unenforceable. The court has already ruled that the money certificate is as good as a Federal Reserve note. And then there's a little bit of law here. I'll read it. a private individual has as much privilege as banks as a public office money certificate are as good as bank checks or Federal Reserve notes. That's Bank of Augusta versus Earl at 13 PET US 519. And then another one is, quote, every effort has been made by the Federal Reserve to conceal its powers, but the truth is the Fed has usurped the government. It controls everything here in Congress, and it controls all our foreign relations. It makes and breaks government at will. And that's Lewis T. McFadden, 1933, of the U.S. Congress. And on second page of C, it says, credit is a promise to pay, using your note to create checkbook money. Banks have violated the following court decisions. And then there's 9 of them there that you can see. And then if you are right and I am wrong, I'm sure you won't mind executing the enclosed affidavit and returning it to me prior to any further action. I have explained that you are involved in, and if you choose to proceed, please understand that you are doing so on your own peril. So I demand a zero balance on this account and a cease and desist in your various levels of harassment. There are laws on the books to protect customers from your kind of collection practices. I will discuss this with the Attorney General if it continues. Sincerely, Darrell A. Link, Pro Per, United States Post Office, Rural Route 1, Box 67, Delmont, South Dakota, and I sent that certified mail. So, with that, I'm going to refer back now a little bit, kind of into the bankruptcy the month before, and this was a letter or a draft that this attorney that I had wrote on July 15th, 1994, and I just included the last page with her name because that was the most important part of it. A response by my attorney Cecilia Grunwald, she was a bankruptcy attorney, wrote in the court record, it was titled, Debtor's Resistance to Chapter 12, Trustees Motion to Dismiss Chapter 12. And she writes in paragraph 11, the only remaining alleged secured creditor, PCA, has refused to negotiate on terms other than liquidation of the alleged oversecured position. As she acknowledges, they had way more security than the debtor will file a notice for a hearing his Chapter 11 plan in a timely fashion. And this is dated the 15th of July, signed by attorney for debtor Cecilia Grunwald of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So, but anyway, these kind of threats and allegations, you know, were used to compel me to hurry up and sign the bankruptcy plan and schedules. And this was very common in their practice as they continue to kind of make threats, you know, that I would, you know, hurry up and proceed and get that contract locked in. And I guess I wasn't quite ready to go on with that. And I had a little piece here that I wanted to share. Okay. Well, maybe it's, yeah, well, yeah, anyway, you know, I then also tendered a public office money certificate to farmers. This is, if you want to show Exhibit E,
okay.
Which is, I tendered a public office money. You got that?
Yep.
Okay, I tendered a public office money certificate to Farmers Home Administration, which is FHA, which was delivered August 31st. of 1994. And this instrument, you'll see also, it was made out to them. It was in dollars of money of account of the United States as required by law in 31 at section 371, pending determination of the substance of said money. And as I quoted in that letter to Williamson, this was the court case said that a public office money certificate is the same as a Federal Reserve note. So, and then to FHA, I got a little note down here in the bottom. Enclosed is a public office money certificate for the debt owed FHA. And so, since there's no money to discharge, this was used basically to discharge the obligation, since there's no money to pay. So if you want to show Exhibit F, as in Frank, I received a letter from FHA County Supervisor returning my public office money certificate, stating that the certificate is uncollectible. And this was signed by Joseph Schultz. He was the county supervisor at the time, dated October 15th, 1994. And so it was redeemable in face value if presented within 120 days to Capital Resources, Post Office Box 741, Boonville, Indiana. So, and anyway, if you want to show Exhibit F1, on November 17th, I responded to the FHA letter giving notice that the payment tendered offered is based on official determination by the State Attorney General as to the substance of the money of account of the United States. I also tendered certified money order to Commercial State Bank, which was also refused. And it basically stated the same thing. It was pending determination of the substance of said money, but the whole thing is that that's all we had to do is discharge it, since there is no lawful money in circulation to pay. So if you want to show Exhibit G, it says on September 16th, 1994, an order was issued by the Circuit Court Judge Paul J. Kearns of Charles Mix County, South Dakota, ordering the Register of Deeds not to record the documents referenced and remove those documents claimed to be prohibited by the state of South Dakota statutes. And this was September 29th, 1994. Let's see, when was this? Yeah. No, this was September 16th. It was dated. And I'll just go ahead and read this here, because this is really important, I think, to understand how they're all working together. Now, we've got the federal court, we've got the banks, we've got all these attorneys. They're all working in harmony together as a swarm, like a bunch of vultures, and they're all trying to get a piece of a chunk of the credit. Okay, this is in the Circuit Court, First Judicial Circuit, and it's an order in the matter of recordation of certain documents that the Charles Mix County Register of Deeds office. The court, having been advised that certain individuals have been recording or attempting to record documents in Charles Mix County Register of Deeds office, Lake Andes, South Dakota, which documents are subversive in nature and repugnant to the Constitution of the United States and the state of South Dakota, and to political subdivisions thereof, and the law promulgated by said political entities. And it further appearing to the court that such documents are not the type of document permitted to be recorded under South Dakota Codified Law 43-28-1, and that same do not affect the title to the possession of real property. It further appearing to the court that such documents are ineffectual in all regards and serve no purpose but to clutter the books and the records of the Register of Deeds of Charles Mix County, South Dakota, and it appearing that the court, to the court, that under the laws of the state of South Dakota, this court may enter an order ex parte prohibiting the court from filing or attempting to record or filing the documents which are permitted by statute to be recorded or filed with the said Register of Deeds office. The court having been fully advised in the premises and good cause appearing thereof, it is hereby ordered that the Charles Mix County Register of Deeds shall refuse to record or file any documents which are permitted to be filed by South Dakota Codified Law 43-28-1 or other applicable statutes, and said Register of Deeds.
Hang on. You missed. You missed not. You missed not. Or file any documents.
Okay, which are okay. I'm sorry. Let me read.
No big deal.
Let me read that order over, and then we'll go to page 2 of G. Order that Charles Mix County Register of Deeds shall refuse to record or file any documents which are not permitted to be filed by South Dakota Codified Law 43-28-1 or other applicable statutes, and said Register of Deeds shall refuse to record or file any documents presented to her which do not affect title to or possession of real property, such as but not limited to. Okay, and these were all documents that I filed, which was an affidavit of status of an American national, affidavit of non-subject status, affidavit of revocation and rescission of signature and power of attorney, where such affidavits do not refer to any prior granted written power of attorney which is recognized under the laws of the United States of America or to any of its political subdivisions. Assignee's declaration of land patent, memorandums of law on rights, privileges, and immunities, declaration of homestead, declarations of allodial title. And it is further ordered that the Charles Mix County Register of Deeds shall remove her from her records and files any documents that are prohibited to be recorded or filed pursuant to this order. It is further ordered that this order shall remain in full force and effect in the event that there is a change in the office of Charles Mix County Register of Deeds or until further order of the court. Dated the 16th of September, 1994 by the court, Circuit Court Judge Paul J. Kearns, notarized and filed on September 16th, 1994. Now this is significant because now what they're setting up for is I'm going to get dismissed, but they're trying to the banks and stuff are trying to set this up to remove this stuff because I have established my status as an American national. I filed a wraparound lien around my property, all my property, so there was a lien placed against it, and they didn't want any of this stuff in the public record. So now we've got an order from one of their basically their for-profit corporations operating as a court to come in and remove and order this stuff removed from the county record. And I don't believe there's a law to support that. So if you want to show exhibit number 8 or letter H.
Okay.
Which is
I just want to go back over this because people might have missed it from the beginning, and now that you prefaced it. Okay. Affidavits of status of American national, affidavits of non-subject status, affidavits of revocation and rescission of signature and power of attorney, where such affidavits do not refer to any prior granted written power of attorney which is recognized under the laws of the United States of America or any of its political subdivisions, assignee's declaration of land patent, memorandum of law on rights, privileges, and immunities, declaration of homestead, declarations of allodial title, and the judge ordered that all of this be removed, as well as the order for the removal. Is that not correct?
That's correct. That's what he did. I mean, and it was basically to stop me from claiming any right to anything that I own, as a living man on the land, because they were trying to control me as an incompetent person that they created as a legal fiction. Right. And I was trying to correct the record and get this as a permanent record in the county recorder. So I had something that had a file stamp on it that, yeah, go look, it's recorded. Go look for anybody to take a look and see where my status is.
Right.
Okay, if you want to go to H.
I'm on H.
Which is 3 pages, and it's basically on September 29th, 1994, bankruptcy judge Peter K. Eckert issued an order of dismissal and reservation of jurisdiction on certain matters. And I'll read, and I would, we'll look at this here, and this is case number 9440136, chapter 12, order of dismissal and reservation of jurisdiction on certain matters. Now you notice on the left, it's got my name in all capital letters, and right underneath it, it's got the Social Security account. So, and on a Social Security card, it states that this is not your card, this is not your card, and if we ask for it back, you must return it. That's not you as a living man or woman on the land. It is a legal fiction that is created as an enfranchised corporate person that is used as a vessel in commerce to do business in commerce as a transient agent. And so we get hung up by thinking just because it's spelled the same, sounds the same, that it's you, but it's a style.
And this iteration right here with the middle initial, that's your federal trust. And your state trust would be your full name with your middle name spelled out. When you get to the IRS, you get your Social Security card, and you start doing your taxes, they want your middle initial because they're on the federal level. And that's all they're going to deal with. They're not going to deal with your full name. That's on the state level.
Well, I was a little bit ignorant at that time on all these little details, and this is part of a learning experience, and that's why I'm sharing this, so other people don't have to go through all these pitfalls. But when I filed my first tax return, I went in and I had an attorney do it because I didn't know anything about how to fill out a 1040 form and stuff, and so we went in and he filled it out, and we got all done, and it was about 8 o'clock in the evening, as I remember. And I told him, well, just go ahead and drop that and just put it in your mailbox and send it out the rest of your mail tomorrow. And he said, I cannot do that. He said, you have to take the first one, take it over to the post office and drop it in the box, and then I can file every one after that. And that was Kenny Cotton of Wagner, South Dakota, that told me that on the evening. But anyway, this is a learning experience where we get into, how we trust people to think that, they're telling us, what the law is and giving us advice that is for our benefit. But it's really entrapping us without our knowledge. And then the next thing, we get caught up and they're holding us as a different entity, and we wonder why, how can they do this here? They're after the commercial vessel. They're not after you as a living man or woman. They're considering you incompetent because you don't know the difference. If you don't know your rights, you don't have any. And that's where it comes down to. So we can go probably to the second page of this here, and that's where it's the most important. And the court, having reviewed the pleadings, taken judicial notice of all pleadings of the case filed, and heard arguments of counsel confirming on the record by the debtor personally that he was to leave the bankruptcy court, a court of equity, and go to a court of law, and the court found that there was nothing in the record to interfere with the debtor's right of dismissal. The court specifically found no existence of fraud on the debtor's part. Based upon the said findings, it is hereby ordered that the Chapter 12 case of the debtor is hereby dismissed and all property of the bankruptcy estate is again vested in the debtor. And then they had a little, it is further ordered, and this is all doing with other contents with the money and the bank and all that. But now I already had the debt obligation discharged. So now I was dismissed out of bankruptcy, and now I was ready to go back to state court. Now take me to state court, and we can talk about the substance of said money and how I'm supposed to pay when all their oaths, all judges are bound thereby. They are subject to basically honor and support the Constitution, which states that no state shall make anything but gold or silver lawful tender for payment of debts. So they can go ahead and have a judgment against me, but it's unenforceable because the Constitution actually protects that part of it, and they are bound by it. So, and then it goes on, with a little bit on the where they granted partial jurisdiction, and then they retained basically the jurisdiction of the court to settle the attorney fees. And then on the third page, if you want to go to the third page where the judge signed it, it says, it is further ordered that the jurisdiction of this court is reserved for the purpose of considering only the filing fee application of debtors' counsels, dated September 29th, 1994, by the court, Peter K. Eckert, bankruptcy judge. And I had a friend that knew Peter K. Eckert and kind of was friends with him and stuff, and he was talking about the bankruptcy court, and he said, it was just a few years ago they had 12 chairs over here, and it was always a trial by jury. And when we had these hearings, it would be before the people with a trial by jury. And they come in and they removed all the chairs from the courtroom. So this is the progression of the court system, how it was once meant to be basically for really adjudication for the benefit of the people. But it really transpired into for the benefit of the corporation, as now they operate with the Dun and Bradstreet registration and are given and are operating through an EIN number as a for-profit corporation. And you can see that in the abuse that has been taking place over time. So what we'll get into as the next part we're going to get into is where after I got dismissed, I served upon them all on 58 parties that were all involved in trying to take substance, taking my property for an issuance of credit, and lending credit is not legal or lawful. So when I served this here, I served it. I believe I sent it on the seventh or eighth day, and they received it like the eighth or ninth day. And usually there's a 10-day window when you need to kind of, let an order settle. And they had an emergency hearing and reinstated the dismissed bankruptcy because they didn't know what to do, because they were not, this notice of a non-judicial commercial lien process was all done under the penalty of perjury. That I was working with Joe Holland, and he helped me construct it. And they were given 30 days in which to refute each point in that notice, point by point, by affidavit under the penalty of perjury, and nobody could do it. And they didn't know what to do because they feared that it would encumber all their property. So they moved to immediately reinstate the case, and then later on they converted to an involuntary Chapter 7, and then the war really started. And then they come out surrounding me with all their weapons and stuff, and life went on, and that's what we'll get into on the next part 6. So Well, that'll conclude this part of it, Floyd. So, you got any
All right.
questions?
I don't actually. Let me jet over here to YouTube. See if anybody over here has any questions.
If
Guys
not,
not
we can
been
go on to the
following
next part.
comments.
Well, that's okay. It's pretty self-explanatory, with the documents and everything.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I could add one more part. I got a little deal here, and I didn't send you this document, but it's an order of dismissal, and I filed several cases in this whole thing. But it's a document that's in the United States District Court, District of South Dakota, Southern Division, which is Darrell Link, plaintiff versus the United States of America, and it's civil case number 99-4095. And it's titled the Order of Dismissal. And I fought a lot of these cases in the United States District Court and stuff, and it was going nowhere. So we decided that we must need to go to the District of Columbia and deal with it there, because that is the jurisdiction of all. When you go into any of the codes, you go to the definitions in the front of the book, and it will define United States, state, and municipality. And each one will say, which includes the District of Columbia, Guam, Puerto Rico, and its territories and insular possessions. So that's the only place it includes. It don't include out here in the 50 territorial states. Right. So we figured, well, the jurisdiction's in the District of Columbia, so I filed it in the District of Columbia, and that's what I did here. And then this case was transferred from the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. Plaintiff was granted leave to proceed in formal papers by the District of Columbia Court. Plaintiff Darrell Link filed a notice and demand for the court to issue a summons. Docket 5. Court will deny the motion to dismiss this action for reasons stated herein. It appears plaintiff is attempting to challenge the criminal convictions of United States versus Link, criminal CR 96-40005, for concealing bankruptcy estate or bankruptcy assets, mail fraud, and conversion of mortgaged or pledged property. See United States versus Link, 96-4201, A Circuit, 1998, affirming Link's conviction and sentences on all counts. He also attempted to challenge various orders of the bankruptcy court, which, having been challenged by the plaintiff in numerous other actions filed in this court and the district court in the District of Columbia. See Link versus Dirks. And Dirks was the henchman or the paid thief or the hired thief by the Chapter 7 trustee to go out and collect the cattle, collect the property and all that stuff. And we'll get into that, and I'll show pictures later what happened to everything else. It was a real eye-opener. That was civil case 95-4029, Link versus FHA. And that's civil case 95-4096. And that was challenging the unconscionable contract with the mortgage contract, which stated that you assigned this property, which includes refrigerator, freezer, carpet, utensils, all this, everything is called the property, which you assigned this property unto the government to have and to hold forever in fee simple. And you warrant the title to the government forever. I mean, so what are you buying? I mean, that's an unconscionable contract, so I challenged that, and that was the first time they arrested me, I believe, because I took that up into the federal court, and I went up there and I set these all these here documents to be served up on the clerk's desk, and they all looked up at me like, he's here. And somebody pressed the button. The next thing, that marshal was standing on my right shoulder and said that you're Darrell Link, and I got a warrant for your arrest. And I looked at him. I said, I didn't identify myself, but if I see him, I'll tell him you're looking for him. And I turned around, and wow, then then 5 of them jumped me from the back and they rolled me around the ground. I was all carpet burned up. But anyway, and then I did another case. It was called Link versus PCA of the Midlands. That's 95-42-13. And then another case, Link versus PCA, and that was 95-42-91. And then Link versus United States of America, a civil case, 98-4228. Originally filed in the District of Columbia, transferred to the District of South Dakota. And then, I don't know if I want to read this whole thing. It's another 2 pages. But anyway, I challenge this in many aspects, dealing with the tender, with the jurisdiction, and let me tell you, there is no remedy in that court, and I can prove that. And I exhausted every remedy, and at that point, I thought there was courts, I thought there was law, and it's all the contrary. And you cannot get remedy in that system, and that's why when I started out, I did that notice of a non-judicial commercial process.
You can, Darrell. You can get remedy, and I tell everybody this. The courts have received all of this material like what you've done, and they can't process it. They can't allow the administrative low-level employees to comprehend exactly the real way their courts work. So they can't accept any of this stuff, and they poo-poo it, and then they label it. And it is my opinion, having dealt in courts, they're not going to let you win unless they want to allow you to win. And when we go into their sandbox and we bring our own toys, they don't recognize our toys. And we're trying to play with our toys and their toys, and they're just not recognizing our toys at all. The only place our toys are recognized are in our own sandbox. And they're not going to recognize them. They're not going to play with them. So it is, in my opinion and my belief, in the current judicial system across the country on every level, that you need to play with their toys. Am I breaking up still? Am I still breaking up?
Yeah, that's better now, but you were pretty choppy there for a while.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's better, yes.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I'm holding the mic up to my face. Y'all stop, please. Thank you. Yeah, basically, it's my opinion the courts aren't accepting anything that has all the, what we're going to call private verbiage, symbology on it. I was going through this with the original Mark Z this morning because he just relocated in Puerto Rico and hung a peace flag behind him. And for somebody who has an audience of, actually has almost 100,000 subscribers on YouTube alone, but he, generates anywhere from 2,000 to 10,000 viewers every episode that he does live. Sometimes he does 3 a day. So when you go to Wikipedia and you type in sovereign citizen movement, guess what pops up? That flag. So basically what has happened is the flag hasn't been hijacked by malicious or malevolent people or entities. It's been hijacked by the government and labeled, just like we're all conspiracy theorists, even though we're conspiracy factoids, because all we do is spit out facts that turn out to be true theories. So that's what's going on with that. And it's a sad commentary on, the system, because our republic, we gave it away years and years and years ago. And the sad thing about the current state of the United States of America populace is that they're not aware enough to realize what's really going on, that everybody's being duped. And, unless we, the people, stand up, because for some reason, the conservatives, the MAGAs, the QAnons, the Republicans all think that they're going to go in through their own political channels, locally, state, or even on the federal level, and change everything through the political system. And that's never going to happen, which is a great segue, because next week, we've already scheduled lunch. I don't know when I'll be able to do an interview with her, but we're definitely doing lunch next week. And I'm going to have her on the show, and she will be able to tell you firsthand out of her own mouth, running for office, how she was treated by the Republican Party. And here she is, Carmen for Congress, a real Republican for the United States Congress. She was too real for the Republican Party. They campaigned against her and actually supported Sheila Jackson Lee. Absolutely. And here's a little bio on her. She's from Venezuela, moved here 20 years ago. She's a former Miss Venezuela, runner-up to Miss Universe. Fascinating woman. I had a great conversation with her. I look forward to having lunch with her. As well as Carmen, I also have another guest coming up, who I finally got in contact with today. Y'all may know her from a video that I did, my latest video, Christine Scott. Here she is. She currently has multiple suits pending in circuit and superior courts in Florida that have run into major roadblocks and are stagnated. So she did basically a writ of certiorari to the 11th Circuit Court of the U.S. Court of Appeals, and that are recently on the 6th filed a writ of mandamus to Justice Clarence Thomas, who is the justice over the 11th Circuit, for his review of the writ of mandamus. Now it's up to Clarence Thomas whether or not he wants to rule on the mandamus as a sole justice, or to bring it before the entire panel court of justices, or deny it without written order. But compared to the Brunson cases, you're looking at a triple PhD case against a kindergartner with a crayon. That would be the Brunson brothers. Christine Scott would be the triple PhD. That's the difference between the two. So they're coming up next week. Thank you for that segue, Darrell. I'll tell you what, for part 6, I'm going to disconnect the YouTube live. Can we take a break so I can get something to eat, Darrell?
We can do
we'll
that.
jump back on and do another one. We won't do it live. We'll just do a recording, and then I'll post it either tomorrow or Monday. Okay,
we can do that. Just let me know when you, just give me a text or something to let me know.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I got you.
I've got everything. We're just going to kind of go over these documents, and I'll explain them and answer any questions.
All right.
So,
good enough. All right.
Okay, thank you.
For anybody who had questions that we didn't get to catch, go in when we, we're not going to be on to. Leave your comments below. So if you like the video, story, like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, leave a comment below, ask a question below. If you need to ask a question, want to get a question to Darrell for the next video, you can always email me at the Fearless Floyd Show at yahoo.com. For those of you who don't know, I do have a Telegram channel. It is the Wild Wild West, but I do have other ones as well. I am on all other social media platforms as the Fearless Floyd Show. So come check us out. Darrell, thanks for being here. I will see you on the next video. Everybody watching, thank you all. Y'all have a safe, happy Veterans Day weekend to all the veterans, past, present, and future. Thank you very much for representing the United States of America and putting it out for us. Anything else, Darrell, you want to add?
I could leave an email if somebody wants to,
go ahead.
engage or anything like that. You could send that to DLLINK 2000 at protonmail.com. So
there you go. You want to repeat that again a little bit slower now that everybody has a pen and paper to write it down?
DLLINK 2000 at protonmail.com.
There you go, folks. That's DLLINCK 2000
INK.
Proton.
INK.
Yeah, INK. DLLINK, right?
Yep, DL Link 2000 at
There we go.
protonmail.com.
All right, there you have it, kids. If you have a question, man, send it to Darrell. Thank you very much, Darrell, for being on here. Thank you, everybody, and we will catch you on the next video. Thank you for tuning in.